Hello and welcome back to the NOTCAST. It's episode 269 and it is the 17th of February 2023. And since I am never topical in what I do, today I am going to do, 3 days late of course, a Valentine's Day special. Because I was talking at home and I was asked, well, where'd you get the ideas from for your NOTCASTs? And I'm like, well, I think about songs that I like, or albums, or periods of bands, or bands that I'm focusing on at particular periods of time. And the process that I have around how I choose what I'm going to talk about is I have a pretty compulsive personality. It's quite focused. Depending on who you talk to, I'm either autistic or weird, or just an autistic weirdo. I don't know about that. I don't have a diagnosis or anything. But what I do tend to do is I tend to focus on details and things, which you've probably worked out already on the grounds that I've been talking about my record collection for the past 2.5 years. And sometimes my brain just goes, today, that. And then all of a sudden, that is the thing. And I have cue sheets over there, bits of paper that tell me about 7 or 8 episodes I've got lined up and ideas coming up. But obviously I do take requests, or more correctly not requests, hints and questions, and this one is a in real life request from a human individual who I actually know in meat space, which was, why don't you do one about the best breakup songs of all time? And I thought about it and I thought, well, that's one way of treating Valentine's Day, the capitalist co-opting of the nature of romance and love and companionship. Twist it on its head and stick the knife in it whilst you're at it. So I'm going to talk about my favourite breakup songs. And that means I am going to get personal about parts of my life. Hopefully not too many. And I will read you something which I've written as well at the relevant point when we get to it, but that's a way off, and it's really quite short. It's not like come up here and have a look at my etchings. What you won't get in this are breakup songs where the breakup hasn't yet happened, which means even though Love Will Tear Us Apart is fantastic, Love Will Tear Us Apart is about something that is going to happen, not about something that has happened. It's not about the breakup that's happened. It's about the breakup that's going to happen. And if, like me, you are the eternal optimist, pardon me, drinking from a cup that's half full, what you'll realise is there is still time for the narrator in Love Will Tear Us Apart to change direction. That's not necessarily how it pans out in the finished version of the song, of course, or, of course, the reality that we know about. And since I haven't counted the number of songs that I've got, I don't know whether this is a top 10 or a top 8, or I'll know when I get there. What I am going to do is I'm going to give you honourable mentions to a couple of songs that I think are very, very good, but didn't quite make the list, if that makes sense. The first one I'm going to choose is from R.E.M's Around the Sun album. Their redheaded stepchild of a record that nobody seems to really want to love or admit exists. It's the first song on the album, the first song released from the album, the first single, the rather fabulous Leaving New York, which is illustrated here in the special edition with this somewhat abstract poster. And this song, when it came out, I listened to it an awful lot when it came out, which was 2004, because it reminded me of a breakup that had happened. And I will come back to this same breakup, by the way. I've got so much material out of this breakup. And there's the line in there, which is, it's easier to leave than to be left behind. Leaving was never my proud. And there's the second kind of element, the refrain that comes at the end of the song is, I told you forever, I love you forever. I told you, I love you forever. You never told me forever. And then the next line is, you might have laughed if I told you, you might have hidden a frown. It's easier to leave than to be left behind. Well, I had a really bad breakup once. That makes me no different from the vast majority of other human beings on the planet, of course. We've all had a terrible heartbreak at some point. If we haven't, we're very, very lucky. I'll be honest about it. Leaving New York was a song that reminded me of and articulated some emotions that I had during one particular breakup. The first one is it's easier to leave than to be left behind. I found myself in a situation where I split up with somebody, or more correctly, that somebody split up with me. And it was sudden and it was unexpected and it was quite brutal. And one of the things that person told me was that they were going to do it in such a way that was going to be so painful that I could never tempt them back, because they would never want to go out with me again. What they wanted to do was to burn all the bridges with me so that I would not ask them to go out with me again, and so that they wouldn't go out with me because I wouldn't even ask them. I wouldn't be interested in them. I was like, there are easier ways of achieving that than trying to destroy everything that our relationship had ever touched. It seemed quite immature, and it seemed quite vengeful, actually. And so there's a line, it's easier to leave than to be left behind. I was the one that was left behind. They went off in a different direction. And so the lyric in that, and then the one, you might have laughed if I told you. I had this sudden moment that if I told them how I felt about them, they might have laughed at me. You know, like when you're like 16, 17, you go out with somebody, maybe you don't. And you think you love them, and maybe you tell them and they don't feel that about you and they laugh at you. I don't think that's never happened to me, but I can imagine that it's crucifyingly difficult to experience something like that. And to then be in a situation when somebody splits up with you, to me, that particular separation felt like, and this is a theme that I will return to a number of times, it felt like as if, because there was no explanation as to why that particular breakup had happened, there was no information I could learn from that. So I was going, well, look, if this is going to hurt me so much, can I at least understand what I have done or what I didn't do, so that I can learn from this incredibly painful experience? I don't believe that everything happens for a reason. Sometimes, everything does happen for a reason, but sometimes the reasons have absolutely nothing to do with you, and the reason fucking sucks. And so for this, I was trying to learn where I had gone wrong, because I didn't know where it had all gone wrong, but clearly it had. And so Leaving New York, for me, one of the great breakup songs. It doesn't feel like it. It's a love letter to a city by someone that's leaving a city. It's a love letter to New York, written post 9/11, and it's this vast, expansive song, but it still has the core part of it, that essence of regret, where somebody goes, well, actually, I knew information that you didn't know. The information that I knew was I decided that I was going to do something else with somebody else. I was going to go in a different direction, and you didn't know that. And that's where, the core element of perhaps leaving was never my proud in this particular song had come from. And so for me, every time I listen to that song, I'm transported back to that very one particular, quite unpleasant breakup, where the person in question had done things, not necessarily because they believed in them or because that's what they genuinely felt, but they'd done things in such a way as to sour the milk so much as that I would never tempt them again by saying I'd never ever want to go out with you ever again. As it stands, as far as I'm concerned, once it's over, and that's that. When you're young and you kind of go in that hole, going out with somebody, splitting up with somebody, coming back to somebody, I think I kind of, at a certain point in my life, I was like, I've left that is gone. If it's over, it's over, and I'm not looking back. But maybe that person hadn't felt that way in them. So there you have it, Leaving New York. Honourable mention to that. Next honourable mention, can't be a song. Actually, it has to be a whole album, because it's that good. It is Moby's Animal Rights album. This is one of the classic breakup albums of all time, although most people will have never heard it and they think that it sounds like play. It doesn't. This is Moby as one man in his bedroom, destroying his career and his commercial potential by making a New York hardcore punk album. He plays all the instruments, apart from, I think, violin and cello, programs all the drums, and every song is this furious venting kind of spleen about how he split up with somebody and he's hurting. All of that, there's a line in the song "Someone to Love Around," "Make me a being without a soul," as if he's kind of saying, if having a soul hurts like this, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to have feelings. I want to be this, autonomous robot. And huge chunks of the album kind of reflect a sense of being rejected, a sense of being not fitting in, or a sense of being in some way incompatible with human existence. And it's an album that, good God, I've been through other splits, by the way, not just the one that I mentioned earlier on. Is an album that, to me, I listened to, and as soon as I heard it, I was like, I have got this. This album has totally nailed exactly how I feel about the particular situation that I had very, very recently lived, by the way. So, yeah, there you have it. The next one, and this I hadn't planned, but I've decided it's absolutely essential that I bring it in at this point. It seems relevant and pertinent. This is 9 Inch Nails and their 1991 single, or more correctly, their 1990 single, 1989 actually, in America, "Sin," from the album Pretty Hate Machine, one of the great breakup albums of all time. This is an album, well, Pretty Hate Machine is an album, "Sin" is a particular song that I listen to very, very frequently during the end of my first relationship, which was awful. And it ended with the other party finding someone else. And both of those people behaving very, very selfishly and inconsiderately. There is, obviously it being my first relationship as well, I had felt that very, very clearly, that particular element of my life. I thought, some relationships you meet people and go, yeah, this is a summer thing, summer loving, as Greece would have it. For me, that relationship, I knew I wasn't going to grow old with that person, but if I was lucky, we would have some wonderful experiences, some lovely memories, and we would party and go into different directions in the future, knowing that both of us had been a beneficial part of each other's lives. Update readers, I was unlucky. That person cheated on me very, very publicly and very callously in a way that was awful to experience. A kind of stuff that you would have Bob Dylan writing albums about. There's a line in here about all of the things that are in the song felt like explanations of, or articulations of, how I felt at that time. There was that particular line about, "I gave you my purity and my purity you stole. Do you think I wouldn't recognise this compromise? I'm too damn stupid to realise the smell of stale incense and lies, lies, lies." And it was like, do you really think I'm so naive I don't realise what's going on, that I can't see what's happening around me? And that I was like, no, I deserve better than that. This is one of the great breakup songs of all time, but it's a breakup song where you've got to be absolutely fucking furious about what's happening, going, no, because the way in which people treat other people, there's not a law around it that says you can't hurt people. There's a law that says, thou shalt not steal, and you shouldn't kill, and you shouldn't drive fast in a built-up area, and you should declare your tax and all that stuff. But there's nothing in there that says, you can't go off and do this terrible, terrible thing with somebody that really hurts another person that's actually not done anything to deserve it. That's not actually illegal. It's just, really immoral. And so "Sin" is one of the great breakup songs of all time. It really, really is. Now, this is where we're going to go into the section that I have prepared and thought about, as opposed to giving honourable mentions to 3 songs. This one may surprise you. It may not, actually. This is one of the... there's a song on Editor's fourth studio record, The Weight of Your Love. This is an incredible album. I absolutely love it to bits. And that song is called What Is This Thing Called Love? It's the first time I heard that song was the summer of 2013. The summer it came out. A couple of days after it came out, I was working in London, near London Bridge. And I went for a walk, and there was a park directly opposite where I worked. And I was walking back to work, and this song came on called What Is This Thing Called Love? Takes its name from, I think, a song by Cole Porter as well. And I stopped, and I sat down on the bench in the park, and I listened to the song for half an hour, and I was like, how could somebody know? How could a song speak to me in such a way that it just stopped me cold in my tracks? It was like I forgot how to walk, I forgot how to think, I forgot how to text, I just sat there and I was just consumed with this song that was so compelling and powerful and articulate about the conflict that exists between people. This, by the way, I think Editors have become a phenomenally good band. I know some people don't like their new direction after Justin Lockie joined. I think they have become even better than they already were in this second incarnation, of which this was the first album that was released from it. And What Is This Thing Called Love is just, when music is at its best, it changes how you see the world, and it changes how you see yourself, and it changes who you are, and it changes everything around you. And What Is This Thing Called Love is just one of the very, very best songs I've ever heard, really. There's a lyric about, I've been your lover for the last time. All of the pretending, God knows that we tried. I've been the doctor for the last time, and if we weren't so good at it, we both would have been fine. The idea of, that's it, that's the end of the relationship, that's the breakup that's been happening. I've been trying to, repair this, I've been trying to work through it, and all we end up doing is just tearing each other to pieces through arguments. I knock you down, bruise you with my words, I patch you up, and now it's your turn. The idea, I patch you up, ties in with that line, I've been the doctor for the last time, and now it's your turn. You get to bring these things out back at me, these arguments, these ideas, because sometimes an argument isn't an argument, it's a continuation of a series, it's a continuation of the same conflict. It's like, Friday the 13th part 7, Jason's still immortal. Some arguments, they're not arguments that have conflict and resolution, they're just conflict exhaustion, and then conflict restarts when you've refilled yourself and you've got some more energy back in you. And then there's the second verse has, we built this city and now we tear it to the ground. This fight is over, hear the bell ringing out at the end of the final round. The concept of we built this city, the idea behind that we've built this universe together. A couple has its mythologies, it has its ideas, its motifs, its ideas. There are things that are unique to those two people. They've seen things that nobody else is ever going to see. They're going to live forever. And then the idea is we've built this city, this universe around us, and this existence, and suddenly it's being torn to the ground. It's being torn to pieces by what's happening, and then the line about, you knock me down, you cut me with a stare, you patch me up, and now it's my turn. And what is this thing called love that you speak? We're out of it. We're out of it. It's over. It's finished. It's just like, just a knockdown, stand up kind of fight between two people compelled to engage in conflict. So like at 12 rounds, you go back and back and back, and we've all known or been in that couple that sticks together and then splits up, and then goes back together and then splits up, and then eventually at one point, that's it, that's the end of the round, the fight. Somebody taps out, it's over and it's done and it's finished. And it's at the time that this was released, which was 2013, and I've got 2 other songs from the same 12-month period, give or take, that came out, which affected me greatly. My life was quite difficult. I had been made redundant 3 times in 3 years. And there was a major health event that was ongoing with inside my relationship that changed the context and dynamic of how that worked. And then, you know, what you realise is people change over time. And do the people change in the same direction, or do they change in different directions? Those are really difficult concepts to work with. And what is this thing called love? And it kind of just made me realise that I was experiencing in that year a midlife crisis of sorts. I hit smack into the middle of an age that ends in a 0. I'd changed. My appearance had changed. My hair had deserted me and run away. I wasn't youthful by any stretch of the imagination. I felt invisible and over the hill. I felt that I wasn't being seen for who I was. I'd become something else, and that there were too many problems. Now, in life, on a day-to-day basis, you can live with a certain number of problems. You can live with a certain number of, really, you've got to do this, okay, fine, whatever. But there comes a point where it's not just a bump in the road, it's the end of the road, it's the last thing, and you kind of go, right, this is it. You know, what is this thing called love, what you speak of? We're out of it, we're done, we're finished, we're kaput, we're over. And I just sat there on the bench just outside Borough Market in the sunshine. It was windy, it was warm. Everyone around me was living their lives oblivious to this moment of revelation that I had on a Wednesday afternoon in London in I think it was June 2013. I just heard this song and I was like, I've changed. You know, I'm not the same person anymore. There's like a light had come down from the skies and hit me, like John Belushi and the Blues Brothers. And I suddenly, like, there was the me before this song existed, and there's the me after this song existed, and everything had changed. You know, I had a revelation around how I felt about the world around me. And I kind of realised that love is something that's meant to feel good. It's not something that's meant to make you feel bad or to make you feel sad. It's something very, very different from that. And then at that point, you know, I realised instead of me taking all the punches, I was going to turn around and I was going to start punching back. I was going to start fighting back against the forces of tyranny and despair, which beset my life. I've been really miserable. You know, I was struggling with circumstantial depression. I was on some significant medication, and I decided it was time to turn around, and instead of, you know, trying to walk through a storm with dignity, I was going, no, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out fighting. And it changed who I was. So that song very clearly is about the end of a relationship, but it's also around that element of codependency, that element of endurance, commitment, everything that goes with it. Brilliant song that just doesn't get enough respect or recognition, and I doubt many people have truly grasped it, the song's power. So we have another song. In fact, we have 2 songs by the same band from different periods of time. I'm going to go for the first one, chronologically the earlier of the 2 songs, which I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about what I regard to be its sequel. So that song is by the Suedes, one of my very favourite bands in the universe. The song is called Another No One. It's also available on vinyl on the coming up Legacy edition, and it is just one of the most stunningly powerful breakup songs I've ever heard by anybody ever, anywhere. Originally it was called Elaine Page because it sounds like a song but written and sung by Elaine Page for one of the musicals, but it just has this wonderful, desolate lyric. This one where Brett sings about, you know, she takes the blame, she takes the pain, but the world smiles, because outside is just a taxi ride to drive away. So she packs a bag and calls a cab, and the world smiles, and inside, well, she feels all right, and then she turns to say, yes, it's the end, the final showdown. It's the end of our small love. You'll have to find another no one to take the shit like I have. Well, I guess this is the end. And there's no song that ever quite captures just the sheer desolation that comes at the end of a relationship. The moment where, I mean, certainly I very distinctly remember there's moments of revelation inside certain relationships where you kind of sit there and go, that's it, there's no more. You know, I went into this room as part of a couple and I'm coming out of this room as not a couple. You know, that's a chapter, that's a door closing, and sometimes figuratively that's a door closing. You know, and I remember sitting in a certain room in a flat and I did not look back. I could not look back when that person walked out and shut that door at 9:42 on a Friday morning, because I knew I didn't want that memory. And I don't have that memory of looking at that door and seeing that door shut and seeing that person walk out of my life. I have the memory of the door because I can hear the door. But what have I got? I've got a wall. You know, that's what I've got. I've got a memory of looking at a wall, which is considerably less painful because otherwise that image would have been seared in my mind forever. And another no one is that song where you kind of realise that you've reached the end of the road. To quote the Terror, is it Boys Out? Boys to Men? Yeah, Boys to Men. But that song is just one of the saddest songs I've ever heard. There's no hope in it at all. It's just, that's it. It's the end. You'll have to find somebody else because I'm done with your shit. I'm through. I'm off to do something else. And another no one is I mean, personally, I think it should have been the last track on Coming Up. It's easily the best way to close the album. It's incredibly sad, but also at the same point, it's a song that when I've seen Suede play it live, I've seen him play it live I think 3 or 4 times. I'm like, that's a heartbreaking song. You know, if Bob Dylan had sung it, people would have been like, oh man, incredible song, best song ever. You know, best song he's done in decades. Because Suede did it and it was on a B-side. Everyone just kind of forgot it existed. You know, they were too busy sucking Oasis's cock at the time to think about this. Another no one is one of the very best breakup songs of all time. It's a song that I've certainly circled many times at points in my life. I wish I'd had less breakups. I wish my life had been more boring. And then the song has a sequel, or sort of a sequel. The song is called Since You Went Away. It's on the B-side of Can't Get Enough, or if you're in Sweden, it's on the B-side of the single of Let's Go, or Let Go. And Since You Went Away is this beautiful, gentle, acoustic song. It's very light, it's very airy, it's very flippant, but at the heart of it, there's this sadness that will never quite quit. You know, the lyric is like, since you went away every day and every night and day, I've been losing my mind. I've been travelling on circle lines, wasting time. You know, the idea of what happens next, what happens after the separation, what happens after you split up with somebody, what happens after that point. Because, yeah, you know, the credits roll and the hero stride off into the sunset, or the person walks out of your life, and that's the end of your part in their story and their part in your story. But there's something that comes after. What happens next, the next day. You know, you still have to get up, you have to have breakfast, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. And Since You Went Away is kind of a sequel to Another No One. It's a song that goes, this is what happened next, this is what happened afterwards. This is how we tried to live through life on the next step. And it reminds me of something that I wrote on the 27th of August 2022 called The First Time. And this is about the first time that something happens after something momentous happens. I wrote this song about a failed suicide attempt. Yeah, I know, cheery stuff. But it works as a metaphor, it works as a moment. But the moment is right. There's a moment where there's before and there's after. And then there's that moment that changes you in some way. And it goes, the first time after I tried to die, I ate, I laughed, I came. I woke up, I was elated and heartbroken at the same time because I was alive. And it's like the first time after you have your heart broken. What's the first time you laugh after that? What's the first time that you come? What's the first time that you eat? The first time that you wake up? The first time that you feel happy? You know, the first time you feel bored? The first time that's not one of that event is not the first thing that's in your mind when you open your eyes in the morning. It's what happened next. And what happened next is really, really important in a breakup, because it's not just the fact that you've been thrown out of a plane. You've got to land. How do you land? You know, do you jump from lily pad to lily pad like Super Mario in and find out that your princess is in another castle? I don't know. Are you Crash Bandicoot waiting to run out of lives, or jumping from one thing to another, or do you just fall in an endless death loop like that? Like the Hades level of Jet Set Willy, which just says die mortal and a skull, and you just die forever and ever and ever. And actually, that lyric, what happens next, is my next song, which comes from the Wedding Presents 24 Songs collection, which was released in 2022, a different 7-inch single every month. That was on a subscription basis, and then formed a 12 single set, which, by the way, will be the subject of my next NOTCAST about the wedding present, because I think these are incredible songs. Now I'm going to give you a sneak preview of one of the songs, and this song, if you know the wedding present, you'll know the song already, is, in my opinion, one of the very best songs that David Gedge has ever written. And to quote John Peel, of course, the boy Gedge has written some of the best love songs of all time, and I am right and you are wrong. The song is single 11. The song is called Science Fiction, and it's a phenomenal song, because it's about what happens next. It's about what happens after your heart is broken into tiny pieces, but it still beats. What happens next after that? And the lyrics, and since I haven't got the lyrics written down, I am going to quote them from the internet. The lyric is about: aliens have landed. I don't know what they've demanded, but Earth will never be the same again. They said, take us to your leader. You know the usual procedure. They demolished all our barricades. And then I woke up, and the world was just the same as it was yesterday. We broke up, but I still call your name like I do every day. And every verse is a variation upon what do you do next. You know, the day after you split up with somebody, and yes, aliens have landed on the entrance to the White House, and they're demanding to see the leader, and they've changed the world completely. The universe is, and the world is going to face a disaster, guaranteed. But we broke up, but I still call your name like I do every day. And there's the last verse is, I don't know how he acquired it, but a time machine would suit me. A time machine would suit me better now, so I could wake up and have the world be just the same as it was yesterday. We didn't break up, and you'd still call my name, and you never went away. And then the chorus is, and I'd do anything to stop myself from thinking about you. That's all it is, just anything. I'd do anything to stop myself from thinking about you. And that takes that idea of, life continues on the other side of despair. What happens on the next day after the breakup? And it takes that concept, and then it goes, by the way, we broke up on a Tuesday, or more correctly, we broke up on a Friday. It ruined my weekend, and aliens landed on a Saturday, which is why the wedding presents are several million times better than shit Shed 7. You can't get thicker than a shit Rick Witter. By the way, why is it you can't get shitter than a thick Rick Witter? I don't know. I do not like Shed 7. I think they're appalling, because their idea of a heartbreak song was, she left me on Friday, it ruined my weekend. The wedding presents idea of a split up song was, yeah, we split up, and by the way, aliens landed the next day, and that changed everything. And you're like, that's just an example of the degree of imagination that you need to have when you're writing a breakup song, which is my way of saying, she left me on a Friday is one of the worst songs ever written. And Science Fiction by the Wedding Present is one of the very best songs ever written. If I was doing a covers album, this would be the wedding present song I would choose. This time last year, I would have chosen Bewitched. Maybe this time 2 years ago, I would have chosen Interstate 5. But no, Science Fiction by The Wedding Present is one of the very, very best breakup songs of all time. Because instead of it being a song about breaking up with somebody, it's a song about what happens next. What happens after you break up with somebody? Oh, and by the way, what you thought was going to happen didn't happen. Something different took place, and it was very, very different. And I do kind of miss getting a 7-inch single every month off the band, but I did get 24 songs in a year, as the 24 Songs Project did say. So do you ever get the feeling that you've been treated? There are three songs left, and one of them, number 3, this is a song that really, again, came to my attention probably in the summer of 2014. It is a song by one of my very favourite songwriters in the world. This one, if I'm doing a covers album, this song is going on the album, by the way. It is a song by John Grant from the album Pale Green Ghosts, which was released in 2013, although I didn't get to hear it until 2014. The song is It Doesn't Matter to Him. It's one of the saddest songs I've ever heard. And when I heard it for the first time, I just had this moment where I kind of realised, I wish I could write songs that good. I really do. Now, the definitive version of this song is on his Strong Room EP that I think was only available through Rough Trade when you bought Pale Green Ghosts on CD or vinyl. It's available on YouTube, by the way, to stream in a heartbreaking rendition, just him and a piano. The song is called It Doesn't Matter to Him. And it is just one of the most astounding lyrics that I've ever read. It's a song that should be known by everybody, everywhere. When people think, oh, I Will Survive is a good breakup song. I didn't think that was that funny. I Will Survive is not a patch on It Doesn't Matter to Him. It's a lyric that talks about the futility of splitting up with somebody and the search for answers when you can't get the answers. It's just the second verse is, and now I feel the soft pink flesh of my heart hardening to the countless possibilities contained within each day. Vulnerability feels like a cold, wet, concrete room lit with fluorescent light, which, as you know, makes everything look bad. And then these 4 lines are lines that I have spent years living. These lines is, I still keep trying to figure out how I became irrelevant, how I got myself evicted from his heart from one day to the next. And the worst part is, even if I got an answer right now, it would not change anything because we have become 2 strangers. When I had the worst breakup I ever had, which, by the way, sounds very high fidelity, ranking my breakups, but the worst one I ever had felt like the relationship had been hit by a drunk driver in a hit and run, and there were no answers, there were no solutions, there wasn't even a body for closure. There was just an absence without a reason that couldn't be explained to me or didn't make sense to me or felt like I was being lied to. And I still keep trying to figure out how I became irrelevant. What did I do? What did I not do? I don't know where it all went wrong. What happened to create that absence? Because what I wanted to know was, I still keep trying to figure out how I became irrelevant, how I got myself evicted from the heart from one day to the next, and trying to go, where did it all go wrong? What did I not do correctly? What can I learn from this event? When people talk about, a mistake is just a lesson that you learn, it's like, there was no lesson being taught when that event was happening. It was just, there was something, then there wasn't something, and the reasons why there wasn't something were reasons that were never adequately explained to me, that never made sense to me. I still don't understand the reasons why that particular separation occurred. That person didn't articulate the reasons behind it in a way that made sense to me. I looked at the events and I was kind of going, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand how that could have caused this. because this is so much bigger and so much more dramatic and painful than that. Whatever that was, you know, it didn't feel like that was something that really kind of resulted in this, in, you know, separation, in a section where you had two lives that it felt were going in the same direction, where they were like torn in half like pieces of paper, and one went off one way and one went off the other way. It felt like whatever had happened had been almost like a drunk driver had come in and murdered the relationship and then drove off into the night, and all you were left with was just the fact that something had gone where something was there before, you know. And the worst part of it was, even if I got an answer right now, it would not change anything, because we have become two strangers. Oh God, that lyric. I needed that song 14 years before I heard it. I needed to understand that song, because what had happened, I was looking for reasons and the reasons weren't there. It was really, really difficult. Oh, by the way, I'm not doing an oh boo-hoo, oh woe is me, I'm an adult, you know. That's what happens. But I was trying to understand what was going on. I couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't know where it all went wrong, which is the line from my number 2 song by one of my very, very favourite bands, the Twilight Sad. If you've been following me on Twitter and the various socials, you know I love this band. I absolutely adore them, and I'm not going to change. It's too late now to go back. It comes from it's the title track from, and comes from the album Nobody Wants to Be Here and Nobody Wants to Leave, which was released in 2014. And it's a very sparse, very intimate, very barren lyric that just explains just a few things, just gives you enough for you to know what's going on. Now, my chosen version of the song, by the way, is taken from the Oran Moore Session album, which was released on vinyl in 2015. It was sold as a tour EP. I think there were 300 copies of that. I have that version, the tour EP, on CDR in another room. It was also released as in an expanded form as a full and definitive kind of acoustic album of rare tracks and songs from the most recent album. This song, the first time I heard this song, I was like, where has this song been all my life? This is a song that I needed, and it spoke to me, and it articulated again something awful which I had experienced, you know. And the lyric is very, very, very sparse. It's just, can we go back? I won't keep you here. I won't keep you long. Can you stay tomorrow? You won't leave tomorrow. I don't know where it all went wrong. You always say you won't. So lay with me alone. Stay with me. You won't. So lay with me alone. Can you stay tomorrow? You won't leave tomorrow. I don't know where it all went wrong. That's it. And oh my God, have I known that feeling. As I mentioned earlier, there was a certain separation where I didn't get the answers. I didn't get an explanation as to why my life had been derailed, and I had to rebuild and start again. You know, my train had been thrown off the tracks, and I didn't even have the absence of a body or an explanation as to what happened in a way that made sense to me, and I still don't. That particular person probably thinks that they gave me more than I deserved. I think I got something I definitely didn't deserve out of that. But there's this line around, can you stay tomorrow? You won't leave tomorrow. I don't know where it all went wrong. And I'm like, I didn't know where it all went wrong. I still don't know where it all went wrong. But I respect the fact that it finished. And yeah, my life is so much better now than I ever thought it could have been. I think about, and I've been to therapy. You've probably worked this bit out already, but there was a section where I was in therapy and I was talking about, you know, how good and positive, and how many positive things I have in my life at the moment, which despite you think, not only have I got a record collection, I've got cats and friends and relationships and laughter, and I've got all the things that at one point I thought I would never ever have in my life. I think about my very lowest point in my life was a specific date in a specific year, which I'm not mentioning. You can probably work out which particular event that was. And I was like, just remember, I just sat in the flat there and I was like, there goes possibly the greatest thing I'd experienced in my life up to that point. And I've been very lucky in my life up to that point, but I was like, you kind of like, life is a way of climbing a mountain, and then all of a sudden my life had fallen off the mountain and I was in the gully, I was in the valley at the bottom, and I was like, and now I have to climb back up and keep fucking going. And I did, and now my life is like so much better than I ever thought it could be. I'm really lucky in that respect. But I don't want to be one of those guys that goes on about how great his life is, because as soon as somebody starts going, oh yeah, my life's fantastic, it's kind of, you overcompensating. You're just telling everyone else your life's fantastic, because it isn't really. You just want everyone else to believe your life's amazing. And so I try not to talk too much about my personal life, because also something should exist outside of going on various social medias, which is why I don't really talk about that part of my life at all. We have that lyric in the song, the bit where he goes, I don't know where it all went wrong. And then there's another line, which is, you always say you won't. But the way that it's sung, he sings like, you always say you won. And I'm very conscious of, sometimes when you split up with somebody, that other person wants to make absolutely sure that they're the one who won. It is not enough for them to win. It is also that that you must know that you have lost. And not only have you lost them, but they have won, because they have eclipsed you and outgrown you and shone like a phoenix beyond you, as if you were the thing that were keeping them back. And I'm the guy that sat there that's going, hang on a minute, I've had my heart broken. Is that not enough of a victory for you? Do you also want me to know that you're incredibly happy with whomever it is about whatever it is that you're happy about? Why do you feel the need to have to gloat about it? It's not very dignified. So that where he sings, you always say you won't, it also sounds like you always say you won. Like, I won. When you come out of a relationship and the person goes, I won, I got it. And it's like, life isn't necessarily about winning over somebody else. It's about, enjoying the time that you have on the planet and not being a dick to each other. Don't go being a twat now, as Hot Fuzz would have it. And then there's that line about, I don't know where it all went wrong. Yeah, I mean, I've made it very, very clear that I didn't, and I still don't understand the reasons why a certain breakup happened. And that has been quite difficult for me, because I wasn't able to process and understand and put a reason. I wasn't able to source, or wasn't able to follow the sea and the river that drowned my life up to the source to be able to go, that's the thing that caused it, because I didn't get the answers. What I did get instead, and this is the best breakup song of all time, by the way, Yes, by McCormick and Butler. I think this song is a little bit understood, or more correctly, a little bit misunderstood. This song always reminds me of, and yeah, sure, it's a revenge song, but it's a, baby, you left me and I've been fucking incredible since then. It's one of the most amazing lyrics. It's one of the most wonderful songs ever. I always kind of, when I go out of the house, when I think about putting pictures of myself online, when I do anything like that, one of the thoughts that goes through my mind is, if that's the only thing that the person who broke up with me saw, I want them to think, fuck, I screwed up there. Dress in the way that if you were to meet your ex in the street, that you would look incredible. Because Survival is success. And Yes, by McCormick and Butler is the song, which is that act of triumph. It's saying, I am free from the shackles of you, and I am going to thrive, and I am going to grow, and I'm going to burn like a fire in the night, and I'm going to be brighter than 1,000 suns. And you lost me, not the other way around. It's a wonderful act of petty revenge, this song, but it's wonderful, and you can sing to it, and people get married to it, which is a little strange. I don't fully understand necessarily quite how or why you would do that, but there you are, So that lyric about, so you want to know me now, how I've been, you can't help someone recover after what you did. Am I looking better? Have you forgot whatever it was that you couldn't stand about me? Because yes, I do feel better. I feel all right. I feel well enough to tell you what you can do with what you've got to offer. And that's it. I can tell you what you can do with what you've got to offer. And it's just, the most glorious act of petty revenge on vinyl that's ever been released. It's one of the best breakup songs of all time, because effectively it's not trying to understand the breakup, it's not trying to explain it, it's not trying to be sad about it, it's going, I'm free of you. And that is probably the best place to end it, really. So there you are. So my best breakup songs of all time. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone, although it is 3 days late. And hopefully you will have found some songs that you've not heard before that you go, oh my God, this song is incredible, by going through this list. If you haven't, and you've already got fantastic music taste, if you like sad boy indie guitar music, then brilliant. You have fantastic taste, almost as good as me, possibly better actually, because I do like a couple of crap bands. I know they're kind of crap, but none of the ones I've talked about today, all of the ones I've talked about today, they're great songs. Not enough people know them, not enough people love them, and I think they're just songs that have really helped me and been friends in times when I have felt quite alone at certain points in my life, or I felt that the people around me have not treated me the way I would have wanted to have been treated. Always remember the Tower of Bill and Ted. Be excellent to each other. Take care of yourselves. I will see you all soon. Stay beautiful, and see you again for the next one. Okay, bye everyone. Ciao. Oh, hang on, I've got to switch this off.